If you're new to this series and you would like to share a paranormal story that's happened to you before, submit it to whyme2k15@gmail.com. Okay, let's begin. Number 5. Hey, I'm Kyle. I'm only a teenager, so I haven't had many scary experiences, but one always comes to mind whenever someone asks for scary stories. This happened about 2 years ago. On October 18th, I was at my friend's house working on a history project with him, and I was planning on sleeping over so we can play video games together. His mother was out on a business trip, and his father and younger sister were with us at home. Until that is, his sister wanted to go to a haunted house made to scare kids. My friend, named Alex by the way, immediately turns her down. Considering that I wanted to hang out with my friend, I politely turned him down. His sister and dad left us alone. I sat in the kitchen doing some writing, and my friend was down the hall just typing on a computer. Out of nowhere, I hear a light knocking noise from the front door, which I found strange because everyone uses the side door. I stand up from my work and walk over to the door. The TV is on, but on a paused video game. I passed it off as just despite being superstitious. Then once again a knocking starts, this time on the wall in between the living room and the kitchen. Now I'm scared. I run down the corridor and I try to explain the situation to my friend. He thinks I'm messing with him. I plead I'm not. Then we hear the knocking. Now he knows I'm not joking. Considering we live in Massachusetts, it was dark despite being 7:30 p.m. and we live in a slightly rural area. So now we're scared. We sneak around the house trying to get clues on a stalker. We get nothing and end up back in the room with the computer, which is near the side entrance. The room is completely silent, except our heavy breath. Something drew me to look at the back door, made purely out of glass. Out of nowhere, a large pale white fist simply appears and harshly hits the door. A loud bang emerges. My friend immediately runs, but I was frozen in fear watching the door. The fist pounds the door twice more, then as the fist retracts, I see a slight amount of our stalker's face in the moonlight. Pale white like its fist, smaller eyes and toothy grin. I run into the bathroom where my friend is hiding. We turn off the lights and lock the door. I arm myself with scissors and peer out the door. I see my friend's sister's phone on the bench across from us. By now I think it's suicide trying to get my phone in the kitchen, and my friend's phone is upstairs. I quickly reach out and snatch the phone. It turns on. I hit 9 to call 911 and the phone turns down. It turns off. Now we're scared. We hear someone jiggle the side door vigorously. We lock the door and hide near the shower with our small items equipped. We stand in a dark bathroom silent for 15 to 20 minutes until we hear a car pull up. We hear his dad and sister run in and yell to us that they're home. We slowly creep out the bathroom and are so excited to see that they're there. They asked, "What's going on?" and in tears we explained the entire situation. They showed concern for us and my friend suspected that it was them, but they quickly disregarded. They never do that to us. Anyway, neither of them are horrifying pale creatures. To this day, I look out whenever I'm at Alex's house for whatever the heck that thing was. Number 4. So, my terrifying story happened early this year. I am big into the paranormal and have always found it fascinating. I was in my freshman year of college and lived in the freshman dorms. I went to take a shower one night around 11:30 p.m. and it was the weekend, so not many people were there. The way the shower hall is set up is you walk in from the hallway and there are 3 shower stalls, then a corner which houses a bathtub that nobody uses, I hope, and then 3 more showers leading to the other side of the floor. Essentially 2 hallways with the shower that connects them. Anyway, when I went into the shower room, the middle shower was on. I assumed that someone just forgot to turn it off, and since the water was already warm, I hopped in. I heard what seemed to be whispering from the stall next to me, but I brushed it off as my imagination. When I went to turn off the water, I heard something odd. Another shower was on. I know for a fact nobody was in there when I went in, and the doors are too loud for someone to have snuck in. I threw on a towel and exited the stall, and the shower where I heard the faint whispers was on, but nobody was in there. At that point, I freaked out and booked it to my neighbor's room. She seemed freaked out at the fact that I was banging on her door that late wearing nothing but a towel. I told her what happened and she said the same thing happened to her earlier that evening. I will never forget that day. Number 3. I've had dreams like this, but this one was totally different. It was about my brother. The dream started off raining and it was pitch black and cold. He was laying on the field. I couldn't see him. I was on my knees covering up my face crying. I feel like my body was draining during my sleep. And then it switched over to my older niece, Ashley, which she's still living today, but in my dream she also passed away. It felt like my body was sunk into the bed. I was crying throughout my dream. I woke up early the next day because I had to be somewhere. Trying to shake it off, I told my mom that I had a messed up dream about something. We were both laughing in the car, which I told her about my dream. So I got out the car. Wasn't long before that, and my sister-in-law called my mother about my brother. 4 hours later, I couldn't reach my mom. So I kept calling her and calling her. She finally answers her cell. I can tell that she had been crying, but I didn't think of it. Before she told me what had happened, I knew it was about my brother. My brother was found dead across the street from his house. But he didn't die alone. He was accompanied by his beloved dogs. They tried to wake him up, but it was too late. So they laid next to him, trying to keep him warm. Arnold passed away on March 26, 2015. I had that dream the day before he passed away. Number 2. It was just this past March. I went to bed nothing out of the ordinary except for the distinct feeling of being watched, which due to the fact that the house that I lived in is over a century old and is known for weird occurrences. I turned off the lights and I lay down, falling asleep shortly after. The dream I had that night was unlike any I'd had before or after. In the dream, I had no body. I was floating a short distance away from a group of people sitting in a circle. They were discussing the paranormal experiences they all had. After what felt around 15 minutes or so, I heard something whispering in my ear, "I'm still here." The words filled me with terror, and I jolted awake. Sitting up in my bed, my eyes were drawn to a tall, shadowy, cloaked figure standing in the center of my room. It looked like the Grim Reaper. I could feel the thing staring at me. Then everything went black. A little while later, I woke up, still feeling a distinct sense of absolute terror. I realized it had all been a dream. But that doesn't mean that I was able to go back to sleep that night. On top of it all, I still felt like I was being watched. Number 1. The year was 2009. In Mexico, my family and I were on vacation to visit my great-grandparents who lived in the middle of nowhere, somewhere deep in the hills of Mexico. At the time, I was energetic, 10 years old, would run around the farm and go up and down the hills until one night my family was invited to a party at another ranch, so we decided to go and have a little bit of fun. It wasn't until we left that we experienced the most frightening feeling. It was around 3 in the morning where we decided to call it a night and head back home. As we were driving back to my grandparents' ranch, my mother turns around to tell my sister to stop weeping. But as I turned to see what was going on, my sister was dead asleep. My mother then asked me, "Is that you?" I replied, "No." My mother, confused, asked my father, "Hey, you hear crying?" My father turns down the radio and begins to listen, and so do I. I remember hearing a faint cry within a distance of the hills. As usual, my father tries to brush it off and says, "Don't worry, it's probably a coyote." As we begin to get closer to the ranch, all we heard was a very loud cry. I myself was creeped out and began to get paranoid, asking my mom what was that. At that exact moment, my mother turns and looks outside the window and sees a woman in all white with black hair looking directly into her eyes. My mother, terrified, screams and says, "Drive, drive, drive! La Llorona!" My father, clueless on what just happened, turns and briefly sees the lower left part of the dress. He himself was creeped out and hits on the gas pedal. I couldn't get a glance of what my mother saw, but I'm kinda glad I didn't. As my father storms through the dirt road, we hear the same loud cry, but to only sound closer. I began to panic and cry in the back seat, thinking I was going to die. The most terrifying thing was, each time we heard the scream, it got closer and closer. When we finally arrived at my grandparents' ranch, we all got out the truck, and I began to run into my grandparents' room, crying and scared, telling them that something is chasing us and it's screaming at us. My father runs into my grandfather's room and explains to them what just happened. My grandmother grabs a rosary and went outside and told my parents it's okay. She then yells out in Spanish, "I want you to listen right now. I don't know what you want or who you are, but nobody's going to hurt my family anymore. Leave right now." Minutes go by in complete silence, and all of us heard the very same faint cry within distance. Ever since then, whenever I visit my grandparents, I never stay out past 11 p.m. Special thanks to Kyle, Manuel, Nicole, Philip and Sarah for sending in their stories.